The first rule of multitasking is that there's no such thing as multitasking. So today we're going to unpack the term and the phenomenon known as multitasking, so we get a better grasp of what I mean by saying that multitasking doesn't really exist, is not something that it's productive, and it's not something that we should mislead ourselves into thinking that we should be doing. Naturally, if you want to skip to a particular point in this video, you can check the description for the timestamps. Alright, psychology time. So what is it that I mean when I say that multitasking doesn't really exist, and what does exist? So instead of multitasking, we should really be talking about task switching. And task switching is exactly what it sounds like. We actually switch between tasks, or our brain switch between tasks whenever we're doing something. But we do it so fast that we think that we're doing a number of things simultaneously, but we don't. And even when we think that we do, we really don't. And this is really the first takeaway here. Whenever we think that we're doing a number of things simultaneously, it's actually our brain trying to switch as effectively as possible between a number of different tasks. And this is important because it will actually help us better understand what is it that it's so unhealthy about trying to switch between tasks, and what is it that we have to keep in mind whenever we are trying to overcome, let's say, possible challenges related to our own multitasking tendencies. Alright, so now that we understand that we're not really talking about multitasking but task switching, the first thing that we have to understand about task switching is that it's an unconscious process, meaning that we shift our attention from one thing to another unconsciously. And yes, there's a conscious equivalent, which is known as cognitive shifting, and then the two together build up for what is known as cognitive flexibility, but that's not the point. The point is that task switching is an unconscious process. And this is important to understand because whenever we start exploring solutions wanting to resolve it, we should be looking at things that influence our thinking and our actions in the same cognitive behavioral level. So that's the first thing. Task switching is an unconscious process or set of processes. Naturally, the question that arises is, what are these processes? And there's still a lot of debate on that, but what we know for sure is what these processes do, or more particularly, what are these processes related to? First, we have processes related to what is known as a task set. Now, what is a task set? Think of it this way: whenever you boot a program or a game or whatever it is, the program takes a little while to actually start properly, right? So what does your computer do? It accesses its memory, its hard drive, in order to use all that it's stored within in order to start the given program. Basically, what happens and what is a task set and what happens within our brain is the same thing. We get to do a thing and our brain retrieves everything that we know related to a given task in order to do it properly. And here's the thing, a couple of minutes into doing something, it usually gets a tad bit easier to do it. This is related to another process known as task inertia, which is also related to our state of flow, but that's not the point. The point is that it's something that allows us to do something with greater ease and to do so for a continuous amount of time. So whenever we want to do something, first of all, we boot the programs related to this one task, then we engage the stabilizers, which allow us to do this one thing continuously and in a more effortless manner. But then, all of a sudden, a new thought pops into our head, or someone else asks us to do something, in which case we have to do what is known as a task reconfiguration. And what this means is that we have to actually boot another set of programs related to a new task while still trying to sort of maintain the old tasks but also shut them in order to focus on the new thing. And then we end up in one of these situations where someone asks us, do you want to get out and go for dinner, or do you want to stay at home and watch a movie? And then all that we get to say is yes. And this is a prime example of the price that we have to pay for trying to juggle a number of tasks in the same time. Because in reality, in that very moment of trying to do these things simultaneously, we're not really doing any of them. And this is what is known as a task switching cost, which comes in the form of time, energy, but also precision and effectiveness in whatever it is that we are trying to do or deliver. In other words, both the quality and the quantity of our mental output is compromised. And the more we switch between tasks, the more time we waste in reconfiguring ourselves and not addressing any of the things that we are actually trying to juggle, which may lead to losing anywhere between 40 to 80% of all the resources that we have at our disposal. And this is why you don't want to multitask or switch between tasks, but rather prioritize things and then give it all that you have, one thing at a time. And now the last thing that I'd like to offer you is related to expanding your overall perspective on multitasking or task switching. Now, remember when I told you that this is an unconscious process? Right, so task switching is not something that only happens when we work, meaning that we switch from one work to another. This is also the same thing that happens whenever we get distracted by social media, let's say. So we switch tasks again to something that in this case may be pleasurable or addicting. Just in the same way, if someone comes and interrupts our flow by bringing to our attention something that they think is more important right now, we pay again that same cost. And I'm saying all of these things in order to, whenever you consider different solutions and how to overcome your own, again, task switching tendencies, to also do it in a way that it's distraction and interruption free, related to establishing your environment in such a healthy manner. So I hope that you found that helpful, and if you know someone who would benefit from understanding how unhealthy to multitask is, then you can share this content with them. Also, I'd like to hear from you. What are your multitask or task switching challenges? So whenever I present examples, I may actually use your comments and your experiences in order to make them more relatable. Naturally, you can check the description for more resources and expect more content on this particular topic. And as always, everyone, keep it bright, and I'll see you all next time.